On the evening of December 6th, 2014, firefighters responded to reports of a burning vehicle on a back road in Courtland, Mississippi. What they encountered when they arrived was a scene that would horrify a nation. They found a young woman walking in only her underwear next to the blazing wreck, her body badly burned and still on fire. Barely alive, Jessica attempted to answer the most important question of all: who did this to you? In this case, her final words became both a haunting clue and a legal minefield. They would divide juries, fuel reasonable doubt, and ultimately help prevent a conviction, even as prosecutors insisted the evidence told a clear story. This is the case of Jessica Lane Chambers, and how the words she spoke while dying may have helped obscure the truth about who killed her. This is episode number 8, Burned Alive, the murder of Jessica Lane Chambers.
This episode contains themes of violence and murder and may not be suitable for listeners of all ages. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Hot Justice Podcast, a space where we remember the victims, question the facts, and seek justice through storytelling.
I'm Heather.
And I'm Sierra.
And we're here to explore the stories that challenge what we think we know, bringing you real talk, honest reflection, and a deep respect for the victims and their families.
Because true crime isn't just about mystery. It's about understanding the human stories beneath the headlines. Let's get into it. What's up, guys? Welcome back.
It's your True Crime Besties back again for another episode.
We're thankful that you're here with us.
And if you live in New York, we hope you stayed warm this weekend. It was a cold one.
We're recording this, so we just were hit with a nor'easter. So we had, 12-ish inches maybe of snow?
Yeah, I think actually even a little bit more than that, because I think when I checked yesterday, it was already almost at 12 before I went to bed.
So the local schools were closed, which is kind of fun. And I know we both worked from home today, which is also kind of nice.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That was nice.
Stay
if it could just warm up a little bit, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, it's frigid. I mean, not only was it very snowy, but also super duper cold. It's January.
I know. What? I feel like that kind of flew by.
It did fly by.
That was a quick one.
Yeah.
I'll take that. And, it was cold, but it wasn't as cold as it could be.
Yeah, it wasn't as cold as it was when we were little, I think.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Remember?
So,
yeah.
So for our wine of the week this week, we're drinking Ari by Ravines, and it is delicious. So it's a white wine. I think, what did you call it? Muscat?
Muscat grapes. It's
so
we both
wait,
yeah.
Cheers.
Yay. It's probably, I love Boundary Breaks. It's my favorite winery. It has a plethora of wines that I really, really enjoy. This is probably my favorite wine. It's from Ravines. Like Sarah said, they don't have a lot of sweeter wines, so it's one of the only ones I really, really enjoy from there. And I was just told that it might be discontinued.
Yeah. Well, we hope that that's not the case.
If not, these are the last 2 bottles we have left. And they were the perfect size because they're just little guys. So if you want to have a drink at while you're taking a bath, the end of a long day, it's the perfect little size to not have to drink a whole bottle by yourself.
Right. Or some people, you just cork it and you drink it later. But I mean,
those people exist.
Well,
who does that?
Those aren't us, but also if we open a bottle of wine between the two of us, it's only a couple glasses, really. So,
that's common sense. We're just going to drink it.
This is delicious.
We're not going to waste.
So what about, do you have a book recommendation for our viewers and
my
listeners?
Gosh. Yes. So I read a book. I just actually finished it. It's called An Anonymous Girl, and I'm going to butcher this name, but I'm going to try really hard. It's by 2 actually co-authors. And it's Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekanen. I could be completely wrong on that pronunciation. If you like thrillers, probably one of the best ones I've read in a really long time. Really kept you on the edge trying to figure out what's happening. And just when I thought that I would know what was happening, I was wrong.
Thrown for a loop.
Yes.
Oh, those are nice.
that was a good one. Highly, highly recommend that one. I would say at least a solid 9 out of 10.
Awesome.
Yeah, pretty good. So that's my book recommendation for the week.
Thanks
And I
for
don't
the
even know what I'm
recommendation.
going to read next. So
I
we'll
just
have to see.
started The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah, I'm doing a book club for people who don't really read very much. And so that's the book for the month. I'm on page 7.
Kristen Hanna is one of my favorite authors. I
Oh, nice.
love her.
Okay,
Her books
well.
are all really, really good. She, oh my gosh, why do I not remember her background? I think I do. She's an attorney, I believe,
okay.
by trade.
Nice.
Like her and Jodi Picoult, I get mixed up a little bit because they both, like, one attended Harvard and I think Yale. Like, she's really, really smart. But yeah, she was an attorney and she writes a really great novel.
Well, maybe I'll give a recommendation when I finish that book. We'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right.
Make sure you finish it.
So the case today, I have been following since it happened. So it happened in 2014. I heard about it when it originally happened, and I joined a Facebook group, I think immediately, and I've been following it ever since. And because it isn't a local case, it's not really covered in local news. So I would have to Google search and see what was going on with it. So I've been following it for quite a while. And something is actually happening today. It started today with this case.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's relevant now, and I think we might be able to give updates if listeners and viewers are interested in it. But if you are interested in this case, if you search for it, you'll be able to find documentaries and docuseries. This has been covered, but just a really sad case. And I think what sticks out to me is just the brutality, because I've heard of people obviously dying in fires before, but a lot of times they die from smoke inhalation. I've never heard of somebody who was, I mean, I guess I have, but this is a case where, it's a young girl. She was a teenager who was set on fire and lived through it.
Detectives in northern Mississippi say they are still looking for the suspect or suspects in the horrific killing of a 19-year-old woman who they say was burned alive on December 7th.
So,
and I've actually never heard of this case whatsoever. The only thing I said after Sarah did the introduction was, this is a Law & Order SVU case.
maybe I'll have to watch that.
I'll have to find out the episode. Obviously, I didn't know this was going to be the case, but there was or at least an episode very similar. Obviously, they never claimed to be after a specific case, but there was something very similar.
Yeah. So, well, let's get into it. So, I'm going to start a little bit about the initial night. And then I'll go into some background about Jessica Chambers and who she was. And then I'll kind of go through a timeline of the investigation. So that's how I've structured it. So on Saturday night, December 6th, 2014, 2 men were driving down Heron Road, which is a desolate and dark back road in Courtland, Mississippi. Up ahead, they saw flames. And as they got closer, they realized that it was a car that was on fire. At 8:07 p.m., the men called in the wreck. At that point, they did not see anybody, so they didn't see anybody outside of the vehicle. I don't know that they checked inside the vehicle, but they were more concerned about woods, like local, woods and
Like catching on fire,
Exactly.
starting a forest fire.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
which is why they called it in. So 2 minutes later, at 8:09, volunteer firefighters arrived on the scene. So very small
That's so
town.
quick.
I mean, it was really fast. As firefighters approached the burning vehicle, they noticed someone walking next to the car with their arms outstretched. At first, they couldn't tell who or what they were seeing, but as they drew closer, they realized it was a woman. She was nearly naked, topless, wearing only her underwear. They rushed to grab a blanket to cover her, and moments later, she collapsed on the ground. When the first responders asked her name, she answered softly, Jessica Chambers. In a town of just 500 people, the name was instantly familiar to all of them. And even though the woman that was laying before them was almost physically unrecognizable, they knew that they knew her based on her name.
Oh,
Almost
what an awful feeling also.
I know.
To be like a volunteer firefighter and realize you know the person.
Right, which probably happens. I mean, so often, right? You're responding to houses and businesses of people that you know when you live in a really small town like that. But yeah, this was just a horrific scene, I'm sure, to drive up upon. Almost immediately, something felt wrong to the first responders. The car didn't appear to have been wrecked, so it did not look like a car accident. The scene did not match an accident. And then based on the condition of the vehicle and based on the conditions of Jessica's injuries, first responders began to suspect foul play from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
The district attorney says Chambers was still alive when a passing driver saw her lying near her burning car, and that driver said that she spoke to rescue workers. Detectives aren't releasing what Chambers told them, but they say they are acting on that information.
So they started asking her who did this to her, to which they heard her say Eric Derek, or in some cases, Eric did this to me. So that is really, really, really important in this case.
Eric or Derek, one or the
Yes.
other.
Yes. And I'm just going to say that it wasn't just, one or two first responders. There were multiple people. There were firefighters. There ended up being EMT. She was airlifted. So she spoke this to several people, and they all heard her say the same thing.
Okay.
Okay. So at this point, Jessica was airlifted to a burn unit at a hospital in Memphis, Tennessee. She suffered second and third degree burns over more than 93% of her body. Investigators noted burn patterns across her chest that suggested the use of an accelerant. It looked almost like a splash pattern is how it was kind of described.
Oh.
Testing later confirmed that gasoline had been used, indicating that Jessica had been deliberately doused before the fire was set. Whoever committed this crime had poured gasoline down her throat and in her nose.
Oh.
I know. And that's why it was horrific when I heard about it, and I could never get it out of my mind.
Jessica Chambers was burned.
You couldn't recognize her because she was unrecognizable.
Deputies believe someone set her on fire.
The doctor told us there wasn't nothing we could do, She was burnt 98% of her body.
Jessica died at the hospital, her death now being investigated as a homicide.
They said that, as far as they could tell, like they squirted fluid down her throat and up her nose because it just burned her on the inside so bad.
No.
I cannot even fathom that.
Well,
gasoline down your throat.
Just imagine how bad, if you've ever been burned. I've never been burned, thankfully, badly. I had a burn when I was younger on my hand. I touched the stove when my dad told me not to.
Sparkler, and I remember that from
But
being a small kid.
Think about touching yourself with your curling iron or anything and how bad burns hurt.
It's terrible.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I feel like that would be one of the
93% of your body is covered like that.
I've heard 93. I've also heard 98, but a lot of internal injuries as well.
Oh, my. That's just.
I know.
All right, sorry, continue.
Experts determined that she remained trapped in the burning vehicle for approximately 3 to 5 minutes before managing to escape. Police contacted her parents, who rushed to the hospital in Memphis. When they arrived, they were confronted with the devastating extent of their daughter's injuries. In an unimaginable moment of love and grief, her mother told Jessica that it was okay to let go. Jessica passed away from her injuries in the early morning hours of December 7th, 2014. I just can't imagine the pain and suffering that she endured.
No. That is, obviously, I don't know the worst way to die. There's lots of things said about worst ways to die, but I can't truthfully imagine anything much worse.
I agree.
It's not quick. You're in pain. You're suffering. That's just honestly so horrific.
Yep. So who was Jessica Chambers? Jessica Lane Chambers was born on February 2nd, 1995, to Father Ben Chambers Sr., who was a mechanic for the sheriff's office, and mother Lisa Doherty Chambers, who was a nurse.
Oh.
Jessica's parents split shortly after she was born, but they always co-parented successfully, and they got along really well. Jessica had 5 siblings who all adored her. She was a tiny girl weighing only 105 pounds at the time of her death. She had bright blonde hair and big, bright blue eyes. She graduated from Panola High School in 2013, and during her years there, she was a cheerleader and she played softball.
Oh, yay, the both of us.
I know. I thought
what
the
a
same
combo.
thing. I know. Yep.
She was just a goofy, bubbly person. She loved everybody. Everybody got along with each other, and we were just as a family. She was just a happy person.
In 2012, Jessica's life was forever changed when her older brother Alan was killed in a car accident.
Oh my gosh, this poor family.
Yeah. So his death devastated her, and she never really fully healed. And then in the years that followed his death, the people closest to Jessica kind of noticed a shift in her. Her grief began to influence the choices that she made, including the people that she was allowing into her life. Yeah. After high school, she began working at Goody's clothing store. She lived with her mom, Lisa, and she spent a lot of time with friends. So when she passed away, this was kind of her life. She was living with her mom. She was working at the clothing store. I read that she spent a lot of her paycheck at the clothing store. She liked to shop.
I feel that one.
Who doesn't?
Yeah. When I worked at Banana Republic, I used to be like, just tell me how much I can spend here. Like,
Yeah.
why even
I
give
know.
me a paycheck?
I know. It's like you had that extra job
Yeah,
so that you could buy
literally.
clothes.
Giving it up was like the hardest because I just didn't want to give up my discount.
Oh my God. That's so funny. All right. So the FBI and the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation were involved in the case immediately. During the search of the crime scene, the police located a cell phone close by the car that was determined to be Jessica's. A few days after the fire, Jessica's keys were found a quarter of a mile from the crime scene on Heron Road by Jerry King, who was just a resident walking with his daughter. And the keys were sent for DNA testing. So the police wasted no time interviewing family and friends to establish a timeline for that day. In the morning, Jessica was riding around town with her best friend, Keisha Meyer. In a police interview, Keisha said the two girls stopped to pick up a male acquaintance of Jessica's named Quentin Tellis that morning in Jessica's car. The three drove around Courtland and smoked weed together. Around 11 a.m., Jessica dropped Quentin off at his mom's house where he was living. According to her mom, Lisa, at 2 p.m., Jessica returned home and takes a nap in the recliner. At 4:25, Jessica receives a call. She tells her mom that she's going out to grab a few things at M&M's Quick Stop gas station, and she leaves.
Okay.
Elias Elsani, who was the clerk at M&M's that night, told police that he had seen Jessica. So he was really familiar with her because she was a regular, so she was in there all the time. He cooperated with police, and he also gave them surveillance footage from the gas station. While at the gas station, Jessica can be seen putting gas in her car. She goes inside to have a conversation with Ali. She makes a call around 5:20, and then she leaves.
Deputies are still trying to track down the person who killed 19-year-old Jessica Chambers. An emergency responder found her body and burnt car in a secluded area in Courtland, Mississippi. Surveillance video captured the teen at a Panola County gas station earlier that day. Now, in the video, you see her wave to someone, then exit the frame. We spoke to prosecutors about the ongoing investigation.
So this is the last video footage, or the last time that she is seen at this point, as far as police know.
Is it the last time anyone comes forward, or it's just the last video proof?
It's the last video proof.
Okay.
At 6:48, Jessica calls her mom to tell her that she's going to be returning home soon. And then shortly after 8 p.m., her car is set on fire. And then at 8:09, the police arrive and find her, or
All right.
firefighters.
So 6:48, she calls her mom, and then literally like an hour and 20 minutes later, her car is on fire.
Yep.
And how far away do you know is Heron Hill or Heron Road from
the M&M?
From her home?
I don't know. And I really should have looked to how far the scene was of the fire from the M&M.
Yeah, like I wonder if it even makes sense that that was on her route home, or if that was like a complete deviation of how she would have taken to get home.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think that that was on her route home. I think it was suspicious that her car was there at all.
Okay.
So Quentin Tellis, the man who was in Jessica's car that morning, was a 25-year-old Courtland resident who was living with his mother across from the M&M Quick Stop. He had a criminal record and had spent some time in prison previously for burglary.
All right, so he's right across the road. So she could have easily
from the M&M.
Gone to the M&M, been there at 5:20, and then gone to visit him and seen him. Okay.
Yep.
Following.
So Jessica met Quentin 2 weeks prior to her death through mutual friends.
Oh, gosh. This is like a brand new acquaintance. This is not someone she has known.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. Police questioned Quentin on the 7th, and he confirmed that Jessica picked him up the morning of the 6th. He said that she dropped him off at 11 a.m., and he had not talked to her since. They asked him if he knew anyone named Eric or Derek, and he points them in the direction of Derek Holmes, who's a registered sex offender. He had a prior charge for exploitation of a minor, and he'd been harassing Jessica and making sexual advances toward her. So I feel like it was...
Okay, well, that seems like he could be a strong suspect then. Like,
yeah, no, I agree. And it was known not just by Quentin, but I think by others that Holmes had made advances toward Jessica. Like when he would see her out in public, he would kind of say things to her like he liked her and whatever.
Okay.
So police interviewed Derek Holmes at that point. He said that he was home all night on December 6th, and there were 4 witnesses at his house, including his mother, who confirmed that he was there all night and never left the house. So at that point, he's cleared.
Okay, well, yes and no, right? There's been so many cases where a family member or a loved one will lie for you.
Yeah,
I mean, 4 people is kind of a lot to be complicit in a lie.
I think 4 people is a little bit of a stretch.
But I'm not going to take the advice of his mom, who
I agree.
claims that she can swear that he was home the whole time. Like, sorry, Mom, I don't believe you.
No, I know. I kind of thought that too, but I think because there were other people, and I think some were non-family members. So I think it was his mom, his brother, and then like 2 others that were not family members, but that were like in the yard and like
Saw
swore
him
that he
and-
did not leave. Yep.
Okay.
In the months following Jessica's murder, police investigated and interviewed 468 Erics and Derricks in the Panola County area.
How are there that many Erics and Derricks?
It's a popular name in Panola County. Just saying.
I mean, it must be. Like, how many Erics and Derricks do you know?
Me personally?
Yeah.
Maybe 10.
Not that many, right?
I mean, I don't know, 468, but I guess like countywide and then surrounding areas. But
400 and good Lord. I mean, they had to have been so busy with interviews. I guess, you know what? No one can say that these cops didn't do their due diligence if they interviewed that many Erics and Derricks.
Yep, I agree. Every single Eric and Derrick was cleared by the police and eliminated as a suspect. Okay, I just want to say, and I wasn't sure where I would include this, but I think now is a good time. Okay. If you are attacked, and I'm thinking because she was in the car for between 3 and 5 minutes before she escaped the car, right? So seemingly she was possibly unconscious, I think. Because if you're fighting, right, and then somebody sets you on fire, you're hopping out of the car and you're rolling around.
Oh, yeah. If you can get out of that car, unless they did something to the inside of the car to prevent you from being able to get out.
Yes.
Unless, well, yeah, you'd be unconscious if they, like, assaulted you and then poured gas all over you and lit you on fire, and then you woke up because your body naturally, like, reacted.
So if you wake up and you're in a burning vehicle, and you don't know how it was on fire, and you don't know how the vehicle got there, would you think that you wrecked?
Would I? Absolutely.
So if somebody said, what happened to you, would you say a wreck?
Yeah, absolutely.
Would you say a wreck did this to me?
Maybe.
Instead of Eric?
Yeah, I mean, that seems very, very plausible. And not only that, you said that she had gasoline poured down her throat and in her, I mean, how clear... I mean, they knew her last name was Chambers
And
because,
she said Chambers
because probably things aren't sounding correct as they're coming out because you just had gasoline poured down your throat and you have been lit on fire.
Yes.
Like you're probably trying, but your words are probably not coming out properly or clear.
So I think that the police focusing on Eric and Derek, I understand why, because all the first responders said that that is what she said.
Yep.
But if she doesn't know that she was lit on fire, she doesn't know that, if she doesn't know she was set on fire, if she was unconscious, which I believe she was, because otherwise she would have gotten out of the vehicle.
Yeah, you're not going to sit in the vehicle for 3 to 5 minutes just sitting there.
Right.
I think that that's very plausible.
Yeah. But I do understand why the investigation went in that direction. Right?
1,000%. What else are you going to go on? If these are like a dying, that's normally what that's called, is a dying declaration.
Yes.
If someone gives you a dying declaration like that,
you listen.
You follow that because that's all you have at that point.
Yep. So the U.S. Marshals Crime Lab figured out the code to Jessica's phone, and they got information about her call and text log. They now had access. Yes.
And let me guess. Can I guess?
Yeah.
Was that Quentin in there?
He was.
Of course he was.
Yep. So they now had access to her incoming and outgoing calls and text messages, which showed that she had not been communicating with an Eric or a Derek leading up to her death. She had, however, been talking to someone for about a week through texting, although she never saved the number in her phone. The conversation started out as friendly, but turned very sexual in nature. This person was asking Jessica for sex beginning on December 3rd until the night she was murdered on December 6th. Jessica was constantly denying these advances. At 5:29 p.m. on the night she was murdered, Jessica called this number from the M&M Quick Stop. Police determined this number belonged to Quentin Tellis.
Oh. She definitely went over there.
Yeah. So at this point, they visit him again, and they asked him why he never mentioned that she had called him at 5:29. I believe that he said that he forgot. So they go to his mother's property. He tells them that the two had sex a week prior to her murder in the field behind his mom's house.
But yet there's text messages that clearly say she's been shutting him down.
Right, but I also did read that they had some kind of a romantic relationship. So I don't know if maybe they did hook up once and then she was like,
no,
not really
thank
about
you.
it. She was seeing somebody else who was actually incarcerated at the time.
Okay.
So I think she was, maybe hanging out with him, but not like super interested in him romantically, is what I've kind of gathered.
Okay.
He told them that in the encounter that they reclined the seat back in her car, and that is exactly how the seat was found in her car when the car was set on fire and when the firefighters and police found it. He also showed police a shed on his mother's property where he kept his dirt bike. Next to the dirt bike, the police observed a 5-gallon gas can.
Wonderful.
Yeah. They asked Quentin again if he'd seen Jessica that night, to which he replied no, that he had not seen her in person since she dropped him off at 11 a.m. that morning. They then asked him where he was on the night Jessica was murdered. Quentin said that he went to Batesville, which is a neighboring town, to buy a debit card a little bit after 8 p.m. He said that when he returned to Courtland, he heard what happened to Jessica, at which point he deleted her number out of his phone as well as all of their text history.
Okay. No.
Yeah. How suspicious is that?
Absolutely not.
And that was confirmed later that he did, in fact, right after 8 p.m., he deleted everything out of his
right
phone.
after 8 p.m. on the night she died, or the night that they found the car.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he wouldn't have. First off, if you ever had a friend who passes away, or a family member, anyone, the last thing that you do is delete all of those messages, right?
Well, and at that point, you don't even know that she's passed away, right?
Well,
She hasn't passed
supposedly,
away.
he shouldn't know any reason to delete her messages whatsoever, because at 8-something is just when they're finding the car. What did you say, 8:09, 8:07?
So he said that when he returned back to Courtland, that's when he heard about it from somebody, and that's when he deleted everything. So my thought is, if something like that happens to somebody that you're in contact with, that you're friendly with, that you hung out with literally that day, wouldn't you text them to be like, oh my God, I heard that this happened. Are you okay?
Right.
Even if you don't know the severity of what happened to them, if you heard that they were involved in an incident at all, it would be like, oh my God, it's almost like he does the opposite of what you would expect if you were a normal person.
I need more wine.
So FBI agents go to Fred's Dollar Store in Batesville to confirm Tellis's story. At 8:26, which is 21 minutes after the initial 911 call. That's not right exactly. Is that 8:26?
You're asking me to do math again, and I
know.
remember.
I'm thinking the same thing. I feel like it's 19. But anyway, Tellis is seen on video at Fred's Dollar Store purchasing the card. And so 8:26, this is a 15-minute drive from the scene of the crime, from where the car is found. 15 minutes. So it's possible.
It's 1,000% possible, because he obviously, or whoever committed this crime, would have left before obviously anyone found the scene.
Mm-hmm.
So they would have had a couple minutes head start.
Yep. I've thought that one of the major issues in this case was that the police were focusing so thoroughly on the perpetrator being an Eric or a Derek that they weren't as suspicious of people that they probably should have been. And I understand why, but at the same time, it seems like the evidence at this point is pointing to somebody else, right?
Yeah.
In August, the case is growing cold when the district attorney's office received subpoenaed cell phone records for a few individuals, including Quentin Tellis. Paul Rowlett, who is an investigator with the DA's office, starts analyzing the data and realizes both Quentin and Jessica's phones were in Batesville at 6 p.m. the night of Jessica's murder.
I was going to say, I wonder if they did any kind of triangulation, like you can see that they do. And thank goodness they did, because
they had her data, but they didn't have his until August.
Subpoena.
So she was, she passed away in December. Rowlett then realized, based on additional cell phone data, that the two cell phones were almost like moving together that night. Yes. Police went to interview Quentin again, who was incarcerated in Monroe, Louisiana, on an unrelated fraud charge at the time. He changes his story when confronted with the cell phone evidence. He says that he was with his friend Big Mike in Batesville, riding in Big Mike's truck. He said the two men then met Jessica at a Taco Bell where he gave her $10 and a bag of weed. Police brought in Big Mike for questioning, who said that Quentin's story was not true.
There we go.
He said that he was in Nashville the night of December 6th, 2014, attending a Titans game, so there's no way that he was in Batesville at 6 p.m. He said that was just not true. So police then go back to question Tellis again with this new evidence, and he admitted that he was with Jessica that night. The two had traveled together to Batesville. He said they returned to Courtland, where they went to his mom's house to smoke weed together. I don't know. I wanted to mention here how many times he changes his story.
If you're telling even remotely the truth, you don't need to change your story that many times.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand there could be a certain degree, you could be innocent, right? And be like, oh my gosh, I don't want to admit I was with her because then they're going to look into me. And obviously not really an upstanding citizen because I clearly commit other crimes. In a sense, you could understand if there was a little bit of a discrepancy, but that's like a complete total, doesn't even want to admit they were in the same area when clearly they were.
Well, and it seems like he changes his story when the police have evidence.
Oh, yeah.
Right, to refute whatever his original story was. So it was like, she dropped me off at 11 a.m. I hadn't seen her since then. And
when
then
he's backed into a corner and has no other way out of it, he knows he has to change his story.
That's right.
So he does. It's not like he conveniently remembers a detail and then says, oh, this might be helpful. Let me tell you it.
Right.
No.
And if he had nothing to hide, why does he continually distance himself until he's presented with the evidence that he can't refute?
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So that to me is just very suspicious. On Wednesday, February 24th, 2016, police indicted Quentin Tellis on capital murder charges related to the death of Jessica Chambers. On October 10th, 2017, nearly 3 years after Jessica's murder, the trial begins.
I'm really scared.
You know.
I don't know why, but I'm just really scared about this trial.
So.
Am I right?
Yeah.
Ah, man.
Tellis's family and friends hired a prominent defense team from Jackson, Mississippi, led by Darla Palmer, who is the lead defense attorney, and District Attorney John Champion would try the case for the prosecution. This trial was extremely emotional and tension-filled, and relatives from both sides, his family and her family, attended every day and sat on opposite sides of the courtroom, like, as you can imagine, just, I mean, the thickness of the air, right? It's probably just so uncomfortable for everybody.
Yes.
The prosecution called several first responders. Cole Haley, who was the first firefighter on scene, said under oath that when he asked Jessica who'd done this to her, she was so badly burned that he couldn't understand what she was saying.
There you go.
The defense attorney then gave him his sworn statement from the night of the fire and asked him to read from it. He originally said that when he asked Jessica who'd done this to her, she said, "Eric did this to me," which contradicted his testimony in court.
And now he looks unreliable.
Yes. All first responders who were called to testify said they heard Jessica name either Eric or Derek as her attacker. It's unclear to me, really, why the prosecution called so many witnesses whose testimonies really didn't support the theory, right? Or their case.
Unless that they already felt that the defense would have called them anyways, so they were hoping for the chance to get in front of it.
Yeah.
Although this Cole saying that he couldn't understand her just took away any kind of credibility.
But they did say they were trying to establish how chaotic the scene was and how loud it was, and, you know, people just trying to figure out what was going on, and the firefighters trying to put out the wreck, and people trying to attend to Jessica. And
and think about it. If your throat is burned and your whole body is burned, you're not yelling a name. It's not like at the top of your lungs you are screaming, "Eric did this to me."
Severe smoke inhalation also. So
it's probably so inaudible that you are probably like your ears to her mouth trying to understand.
Yes.
That I think that even if she could speak freely, it probably would have been difficult to. And have you ever it's like a game of telephone kind of in a sense. Like you're kind of guessing what she says, then maybe someone else is guessing what she says. And then maybe after you talk to each other, you're kind of like, I think she said this.
Yeah. I mean, at that point, they don't have a suspect. They don't know what the evidence is, right? They really don't know. So they're genuinely trying to understand. And they probably were like, oh my gosh, this is what she said. Is that what she said?
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's
right?
just.
I know. So the defense team focused on Jessica's own words, saying that Eric or Derek had set her on fire and that neither of these names sounded similar to Quentin or Tellis. They also focused on her drug use and dangerous lifestyle. So I think she, smoked marijuana occasionally. I don't think she was doing hard drugs or anything like that. But they definitely kind of brought that to light and focused on that.
Well, that's just really unfortunate because it sounds like the defense is just trying to kind of sully her name. And I hate when I see that because you're victim shaming, you're victim blaming. They're not here to defend themselves.
Well, and nobody deserves this to happen to them. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter if they.
I don't care if she was shooting up heroin in her car right before this happened.
Yeah.
I mean, it
Well,
still
she wasn't, but
right.
for the
But
record.
you know, like no one deserves it. But it's
Agreed.
It's just an awful thing to put her family through, to hear that and have that accusation or those words said when she's not here to defend herself.
100%. Yep. Jerry King was called as a witness. He was the resident who found Jessica's keys. They were found a quarter of a mile from the scene on Heron Road, and they were found on a route leading to Quentin Tellis's house.
Interesting.
Catherine Roberts was called by the prosecution as a DNA expert. She said the lab found DNA from 4 males on Jessica's keys. They could not rule out that one of the profiles belonged to Quentin Tellis, but they could not confirm that it belonged to him with 100% certainty. So
not great science.
No.
And
it could, but it maybe also wasn't from him. And the defense also said, well, can you confirm when the DNA
that's the other thing I was
going to
say to you.
keys?
He admitted he was in the car with her early in the day. So
Exactly.
even if it was a slam dunk, that defense team is going to say, okay, yeah, he already told you he was in the car with her that morning.
Yep.
Ugh. Oh, that's so frustrating.
I know. The prosecution then called data analyst expert Paul Rowlett to testify about the cell phone data.
Okay.
Jessica and Quentin's phones appeared to be traveling together, pinging off the same towers from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. that night. Tellis said that he didn't see Jessica after 6:30, but both cell phones appear to be in the same location, which was near the home of Quentin Tellis between 6:30 and 7:30 p.m. Between 6:49 and 7:26, there was no activity from either phone, likely meaning the phones were not moving, is what I believe. They weren't.
Yeah, they were just
they were just
sitting.
sitting. The defense challenged the reliability of the cell phone data, pointing out that Courtland and Panola County are rural areas with very few cell phone towers. Because of that, location data cannot pinpoint an exact spot. It only places a phone within a broad geographic range. They also noted that there were fewer recorded pings from Tellis's phone compared to Jessica's, further limiting the precision of the analysis. Ultimately, the defense argued that the cell phone location data is an estimate, not a definitive record of someone's exact movements.
See, and that's so hard. I know you remember the Adnan Syed case and the cell phone data. And there was a lot of controversy with that too. And I think especially, even in the past 5 years, we've probably come a lot farther than we were in 2017.
Yeah.
But
I think more towers, right? More reliable locations, but yeah, 2014.
But still, either way, proving that they were together when he had originally clearly said that they were not.
Right.
It still supports that he's not being honest.
The prosecution focused on the fact that in the 4 days leading up to Jessica's murder, Quentin Tellis repeatedly asked Jessica for sex, and Jessica repeatedly denied him. This is what they believe happened. Do you want to say something? Go ahead.
Yes, and I get it, and I don't disagree. But the fact of the matter is, she was with him earlier that day. She was at the gas station. She called him. If I'm a defense attorney, I'm lighting you up all day long about that she couldn't have been that uncomfortable. She couldn't have been that bothered by him, or she wouldn't have continued to reach out to him.
Well,
spend time with him, go to the gas station and call him to go see him. I'm not saying that that's right, but if I'm a defense attorney, I'm using that all day against any argument that might be about his advances.
So I would say if you're Jessica and you've been hanging out with him, maybe she just didn't see him in that way, or he knew that she had a boyfriend and he was making those advances, but maybe she never saw him as a dangerous person. Maybe she didn't expect that, even though he was interested in her sexually, that he would take it further than just the comments, right?
Maybe.
I don't know, because I think if she knew that he were dangerous, then I don't think she would put herself in that situation. I don't know, but I don't think, a normal person, if you're afraid of somebody, you're not going to call them and go hang out with them and drive around with them and whatever. I don't think that she thought he was dangerous, but I don't know that she knew what he was capable of either.
Oh, I'm sure she didn't. If you thought someone was capable of something like this, there's no way a sane person would ever spend any time with anyone they thought was capable. And who could think anyone is capable of this?
I think that the prosecution was just trying to show motive. So they were saying, you know, he was obviously sexually interested
Yeah,
in
he was
her.
interested. She was
not.
shutting him down.
So it kind of follows what they think happened.
Yeah.
So the prosecution believes that Quentin attacked and sexually assaulted Jessica on his mother's property shortly after she made the call to her mother at 6:48 in her vehicle. Believing that he killed her, Tellis then drove Jessica's car with her in it to the desolate Heron Road location. On the surveillance footage from the M&M, there were headlights seen leaving Tellis's property at 7:30 and driving toward Heron Road.
Do we know, and you might be about to talk about it, do you know if there was ever a rape kit done on her to prove if there was a sexual assault?
I think she was burned too badly. I don't think that they ever. I've never heard that there was.
Okay.
I don't think that they found any DNA evidence from anybody on her or in the car, except for just on the keys. I don't think. Yeah.
It's just such a circumstantial case.
I know.
Obviously, I full-heartedly think it's this guy.
7:30, which is when the headlights were seen driving toward Heron Road, leaving Tellis's property. This is also when Jessica's cell phone was seen moving to the scene through cell phone tower data. Tellis then flees the scene. This is what police believe happened.
Yep. Okay.
So Tellis then fled the scene. He ran to his sister's house, which is next door to his mom's house, discarding Jessica's keys on his way. He then borrows his sister's car. At 7:50, a vehicle is seen pulling up to the shed where Tellis kept his gas can. It was parked there for between 5 and 10 seconds, and then it leaves the driveway heading in the same direction toward Heron Road.
Okay, so like he left her body in the car. It's not on fire yet.
Yep.
He's going to get the trash can, the gas can.
Yep.
And he's going to return to where he dropped her car.
Yes. So
then I think that would fully support that she must have been unconscious, because otherwise, if you leave me in my car
you're going to get
after
out.
you just assaulted me,
Yeah.
I'm going to leave that
I think she was
scene.
unconscious.
There's no way I'm sitting there.
So it's believed that he returned to the scene where he doused Jessica and set the fire in an attempt to cover up his crime and destroy evidence, which that is exactly what the fire did. Quentin sent his final text message to Jessica shortly after 8 p.m. It said, "Hey, bae, I can't see you tonight. My girlfriend is coming up. Sweet dreams."
Okay, well, clearly you're trying to hide something then, because you have just admitted that you were with her.
Yep.
So you wouldn't send a text message saying, I can't see you tonight, when you're admitting that you just saw her.
Exactly. I mean, it doesn't make sense, right? It's just like he was trying to cover up.
Of course.
Quentin then travels to Batesville to Fred's Dollar Store to buy the debit card, and then he returned to Courtland, where he immediately deletes Jessica's contact information and their entire text thread.
Yeah. No.
No. There were 6 days of testimony, and the jury deliberated for only 1 day. They could not come to a unanimous decision, and the judge declared a mistrial. The district attorney's office retried the case beginning on September 24th, 2018. The only major difference in the second trial was that they introduced Dr. Hickerson, who was a burn specialist. He worked at the hospital in Nashville where Jessica was treated and where she ultimately passed away. He testified that her body was so badly burned that she would have had trouble communicating anything at all in her condition.
There you go.
Yep. He also said that her pain would have been so substantial that she likely would not have been clear-minded.
That's just rips your heart right out.
No. The second trial lasted 5 days, and the jury deliberated for only 1 day before announcing they were hopelessly deadlocked. The judge again had to declare a mistrial. So in that case, it was 6 in support of a guilty verdict and 6 in support of a not guilty verdict.
It just really sucks. I mean, I'm sure everyone listening knows that the burden of proof is always on the state.
Mm-hmm.
And the state has to prove without what is considered a reasonable doubt. And so sometimes when you have cases that are really circumstantial, even though it's screaming in your face, like we're talking about this, right? None of this makes sense. Cool. It seems clear he must have done this, right? But that little tiny shred of doubt, if that exists, then technically you can't find someone guilty.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably where your 6 people were just, they might not have thought he was innocent, right?
Yeah.
But they might have just thought that there was enough reasonable doubt that they couldn't find him guilty.
And I think, too, things that I've seen and things that I've read about the case is that the community was really like racially divided. A lot of people, especially before hearing details during the trial, because obviously the DA cannot release a lot of the evidence that they have beforehand. And people thought that because she was hanging out with Quentin Tellis and because he was an African-American male with a rap sheet, that he was the one that they pinned the crime on. So I think there was that public, I don't know, theory beforehand, and people just didn't
It
believe that
tainted
he
their
did
view.
it. Yeah, and especially the whole Eric thing. I think a lot of people had heard about that, and they knew that that's who they were searching for. So when it was Quentin Tellis, and they're like, well, that's not who she said did it, right? So there was a lot of, I don't know, speculation in the community that that was why he was targeted, I guess I would say.
It's interesting that they didn't ask for a change of venue.
Mm-hmm. But I think in rural Mississippi, and I think the trial was in Batesville. It wasn't in Courtland, but I don't know if Courtland has a courthouse.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just not sure. But I think it's probably such a well-known case there.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm sure there wasn't a single soul who didn't at least hear something.
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't all the details, they had heard something.
So at this point, after the second trial, Tellis is extradited to Louisiana. In July of 2015, just 7 months after Jessica's murder, Quentin Tellis moved to Monroe, Louisiana to live with his girlfriend. In early August of 2015...
If you tell me he killed her...
No, he didn't
Okay.
kill her. In early August of 2015, an apartment manager noticed a strong odor coming from one of the units in his building. He entered the apartment where he discovered the decomposing body of 34-year-old Mang Chen Shao, who was an exchange student at the University of Louisiana Monroe. Shao, who went by Mandy, had been stabbed 30 times.
What?
Yeah. The coroner believed she'd been dead for around 10 days. During an initial search of her apartment, police found a receipt from Walmart from July 28th. That's the day before they believe that she was killed. They believe she was killed on July 29th.
Okay.
So they go to Walmart. They had the surveillance footage pulled from the parking lot. They see Mandy getting into a black Impala and handing over prescription painkillers to an African-American male who's sitting in the passenger seat. Police then check her bank records, and they notice that someone had been withdrawing hundreds of dollars in the days after her death using her ATM card. When they pulled the ATM footage, they recognized the person using the card
Quinn.
as the same man that Mandy had been with in the Walmart parking lot. Police then run the plates to the black Impala, and they come back to Quentin Tellis, who was a neighbor of Mandy's. So October of 2015, the police arrest Quentin Tellis, and they charged him with unauthorized use of a debit card while they built a murder case against him. They didn't have any physical evidence that put him inside of the apartment, and he was convicted and sentenced to 10 years in prison for the debit card charge. So when police went to interview him after they had they had more information about the cell phone pings, etc., and he was in prison, this is why he was in prison.
Fantastic.
A tip was called in by an informant who said that they were a friend of Quentin Tellis's, and they said that Quentin told him he had attacked and tortured Mandy to get the PIN number to her debit card, eventually stabbing her to death so that he could steal her money. These details had not been released to the public. On May 17, 2019, Quentin Tellis was indicted on one count of second-degree murder in Washita Parish for the stabbing death of Mandy Mang Chen Shao. Police in Monroe decided to wait to try Quentin until after the Jessica Chambers case was tried. In June of 2019, Tellis returns to Louisiana, where he pleads not guilty to the second-degree murder and the stabbing death of Mandy. In November of 2022, Judge Larry Jefferson dismissed the second-degree murder charge against Tellis because he felt that he was deprived of his right to a speedy trial.
Are we?
I know. But thankfully, the ruling was overturned in 2024 by the appellate court. In
Thank
Louisiana.
you. Thank you. Good God.
So the trial was scheduled to begin in December of 2025, and it was delayed when Paul Rowlett, an expert witness for the prosecution, died in a car accident on the way to the trial.
On the way to the trial?
Yep. So he was the same one that had testified in Jessica's trial about the cell phone data. So he passed away. The trial
Could we just not with this case?
So it was then moved to January 2026, and it was delayed again because the lead prosecutor came down with the flu. And the trial was then moved to January 26th.
Today.
Yep.
We are filming this early. So that's today.
That's today.
Okay. So we're going to need to, for my sanity, You're going to need to revisit this case.
So they have 2 expert witnesses that are scheduled to testify on January 30th, but the trial was scheduled to start today.
Congratulations. You have now just made me completely obsessed, and I'm going to do nothing for the next few days, but
Research.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's unclear whether Tellis will be tried for a 3rd time in the Jessica Chambers case at this point.
I mean, he needs to be convicted of something. I just don't even have words for this. So Sarah had told me she wouldn't tell me what this case was, and she had told me that I was going to be very frustrated. I don't even think very frustrated is beginning to touch this right now because
I know. Well, so I do think, right, if I don't know how the police would have maybe pieced it together because of what she said, right? I don't know if they would have pieced it together with Quentin Tellis because he'd never committed a violent offense like that before.
Right.
So it doesn't surprise me that he was not at least a prime suspect and also arrested, right?
Well,
when he
especially
committed
because
Mandy's murder.
they didn't have the access to her cell phone data right away.
Mm-hmm.
They obviously didn't have the access to his cell phone data because they didn't even know he was a suspect.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
So there's nothing pointing in his direction to suggest that they should be looking into him. And the only thing they had was that what they thought was a dying declaration. And obviously it seems like the police really investigated that incredibly thoroughly. Interviewing over 400 people by that name in a county, that's a whole lot of work and a lot of time and effort.
I know.
I don't know that the police could have done much different until they received her cell phone data and could take a look at it.
I think so too. I want to ask, so our viewers, our listeners, I want to ask you, what would you do if you were a juror in this case and her dying declaration really does give reasonable doubt to whether he is guilty or not? Would you consciously be able to convict him? And I know it's so difficult. I think there's, I know.
I honestly, and I hate myself a little bit for saying this, I don't think you could find him guilty in that one. That's my own personal, there's just enough reasonable doubt there. Obviously, the part of me that doesn't care about legalese, let's say, would be yeah, he 100% did it. But I think when you're really talking about the levels that you have to have in reasonable doubt, I think that a decent defense attorney in that case could easily show some reasonable doubt.
I think so too. I know. And so reasonable doubt does exist in the case, which is sad for Jessica because he is the very likely suspect, right? And it's so hard because it's about what can you prove?
He's got to get convicted in Mandy's case.
I
know that it's not gonna make anything easier for Jessica and Jessica's family, but at least it would be some
at least he's
justice.
Bars.
He'd be behind bars. They wouldn't be dealing with him.
The case of Jessica Chambers leaves us with far more questions than answers. Despite multiple trials, conflicting evidence, and years of investigation, the truth of what happened on that dark rural road remains unresolved. Jessica was more than the headlines and the courtroom arguments. She was a daughter, a sister, and a friend, someone deeply loved and deeply missed. As this case continues to linger in legal limbo, one thing remains certain. Jessica Chambers deserves to be remembered, and her story deserves to be told. Until the truth is finally uncovered, her name stands as a reminder that justice delayed is justice denied. So we are going to continue to follow the trial of Mandy, and we're very interested in the outcome, obviously. I think we're both interested now.
I'm going to just be obsessively
yeah.
Can you sign up for text message alerts?
Probably.
Because I will do it.
We'll have to have an insider. Who's
Yeah,
at the
literally.
what's going on today? But I think we'll probably cover it, at least the outcome, on a future episode or maybe a short.
I was going to say, maybe we can even do a mini episode or something just to cover it because
I know.
He's got to get convicted of something. Come on.
And we didn't focus very much on Mandy in this episode. This was really about Jessica Chambers, but Mandy had just finished her master's in education. She was obviously an exchange student, and she had her whole life ahead of her. So her life was stolen for literally $1,000 or less, which is so sad.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, not that there's any amount of money that makes it okay, but come on.
I know. So I'm hopeful too that she gets the justice that they couldn't get for Jessica.
Let's just hope they have evidence actually tying him to the crime scene. Like, let's just hope.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what evidence they have. I don't know if they have physical evidence. I hope that they do, but again,
I
I'm
hope
not
so.
really, yeah, I haven't heard.
I hope
so.
that comes out. I'm like about to Google this when we get done with this because now I'm going to need to know.
So we'll keep you updated on what happens and the outcome of this case. And as always, if you've enjoyed this or if you have any suggestions or feedback, please reach out to us, hotjusticepodcast@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us via our website, www.hotjusticepodcast.com. And as always, if you're listening to this, this is also available in a video version on YouTube. And if you're watching this on YouTube, this is available in an audio version wherever you get your podcast. So Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio.
And you guys are doing really great about reaching out on socials too. Instagram and TikTok are Hot Justice Podcast as well. We're trying to put out little like reels and clips from some of these cases so you kind of get a little bit of a preview of maybe what's coming.
Yep.
And I've heard from so many of you about the previous episode with 5 points. And it's been awesome to hear from you guys. We love it. So like Sarah said, tell us what you think.
Yeah.
From what you heard, do you think there's enough evidence to convict him? We'd love to hear what you guys think about these cases too. It's certainly
100%.
not just what we think, but.
So until next time.
Next time, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Until next time, stay kind, stay curious, and keep seeking the truth. This episode was written, edited, and produced by us, and the music was created by Manny Aguero.